Bud Powell is sometimes described as Thelonious Monk's protege, although they were stylistically quite different. Bud was born in 1924, which makes him about 7 years younger. Monk acted like a mentor, introducing Bud to the bebop musicians who hung out at Minton's. Monk's tune In Walked Bud reputedly refers to his emergence on that scene. While Thelonious Monk and Bud Powell are both closely associated with the beginning and the evolution of bebop, Bud was the one who adopted and adapted the chromatic language to the piano. He had a great influence on the development of modern jazz piano, using shell voicings in the left hand and playing linear lines in the right, and that's a little bit reminiscent of Earl Hines in the 1920s. It's rumored that when Art Tatum criticized him for neglecting two-handed virtuosity, Powell played an entire set with only his left hand. Bill Evans described Bud Powell as his greatest influence, saying, "If I had to choose one single musician for his artistic integrity and the grandeur of his work, it would be Bud Powell." According to Herbie Hancock, Bud was the foundation of modern jazz piano. Every jazz pianist either came through him or is deliberately attempting to get away from playing like him. Although he was loved and respected by his peers and he made some great recordings, Bud's life was tragic. After a police beating in 1945, he was placed in a psychiatric hospital for 2.5 months. Throughout his career, he was in and out of mental institutions for up to 11 months at a time, where he was at one point subjected to electric shock treatments. Coupled with alcoholism, Bud was at times erratic, and he suffered from very poor health when he died at age 42. From 1959 to 1964, Bud lived in Paris. He was befriended and helped by an artist and a writer named Francis Poudras, I'm not sure about the pronunciation of his last name, who later wrote a book about their time together. That book was the basis for a 1987 movie called Round Midnight, directed by Bertrand Tavernier. The lead character was based on the lives of Bud Powell and Lester Young, and he was played by tenor saxophonist Dexter Gordon, who was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor, which is a pretty remarkable achievement for a jazz musician. Herbie Hancock won a Grammy for the score for that film, and it features a slew of famous jazz musicians including Freddie Hubbard, Wayne Shorter, John McLaughlin, Bobby Hutcherson, Ron Carter, Tony Williams, and others. This is definitely a film you should watch if you haven't seen it. In this clip, we see Dexter with John McLaughlin on guitar, Herbie Hancock on piano, and Pierre Michelot on bass, who seems to appear on every album made by an American expat jazz musician in Paris.
Well, ladies, sweets, are we ready for tonight?
In this clip, we see Bud shortly after he moved to Paris, playing with fellow expat Kenny Klukmop Clark on drums and the aforementioned Pierre Michelot on bass. In this clip from a couple of years later, Bud had obviously traveled from Paris to Copenhagen for this concert. Towards the end, we see Niels Henning Ørsted Petersen looking up in seeming annoyance towards a cameraman who thinks nothing of getting right in his face, which is something that many jazz musicians have experienced.